Hi, my name is Mike Reilly, and I'm the director of Road to Victory. In the film, I play the role of Elliot, who is a collegiate athlete, a pre-medical student in his early 20s at a major university. The film begins with Elliot suffering the effects of a concussion he sustained while playing football. What he doesn't realize are the effects this concussion has had on his health. I love football, but I never wanted to make a football movie. When people ask me if Road to Victory is a sports film, I say no, it's a relationship movie. Football is really just meant to be a backdrop. Dramatically, it serves the purpose of driving the main character, and thematically, it's meant to explore the correlation between Elliot's performance on the field and his performance in the bedroom. In the first act of the film, Elliot is very withdrawn and subdued, and these are all characteristics which are very common to trauma victims. Later on, we learn that this physical trauma on the football field echoes an emotional trauma that is haunting Elliot. There's quite a bit of dramatic irony to this because Elliot, the character, of course, feels the consequences of what's going on with his health, but the audience doesn't yet realize this. And I think this is a major reason that I've always felt, even in the scriptwriting phase, that the film would be even richer on a second viewing. And when you see the film for a second time, it allows you as an audience an understanding of what's going on with Elliot's character, and it really makes you question just how much Elliot is hiding. It's the very fact that Elliot's traumatized and shut down that we gave him the character of Anna. We needed to give Elliot someone who was a polar opposite, kind of an extrovert and his introvert in order to draw him out of his shell. And it's actually these differences between the two characters that allow the relationship to work, because they both realize that the other person possesses something that the other lacks. Throughout the film, there's kind of this gender role reversal between the two characters, with Anna, the female, having this hyper interest in sex, and Elliot, the male, feigning disinterest because he can't perform. Playing the role of Elliot was challenging for a number of reasons. The first being that he had to be able to play football. The second was that he had to look like someone who may or may not have used steroids, because that was crucial to the plot line. I was actually 25 pounds heavier than I am now when I played the role. He also had to be someone who was willing to appear nude on screen. I think the most difficult part about playing Elliot was the emotional volatility, and not just the extremes, but all the in-betweens as well. Because at the end of the day, he's lost. You know, he's a man in despair who's trying desperately to achieve something that's very important to him. He doesn't understand how to deal with the plight of his sexual dysfunction, and so he's constantly trying different tactics to keep the problem from overwhelming him. Sometimes he's tender and needful, but he can't say it. Other times he just projects directly onto Anna. There are other times when he simply can't bear the humiliation, so he just shuts down. And there are a few times in the film when you can tell that he really wants to reach out to someone, but he can't because he's hiding something, and so he has to do it in very guarded ways.
Why did you put my name on that form?
It seemed like a good idea at the time. If you take a scene from the first act of the film and you put it up next to a scene in the third act of the film, the differences in the character are really night and day. We were very careful as filmmakers to drive his arc plot point by plot point. And Elliot is, of course, in nearly every single scene in the film. So scene to scene, the change is very subtle. In fact, hopefully it's invisible, because that's what good filmmaking is. But by the third act, he's extremely emotionally volatile, sometimes oscillating from rage to despair, from laughter to finally acceptance. And sometimes all in the same scene. I cannot honestly say that I enjoyed being both the actor and the director. simply because it was so overwhelming.
What's it say on your overhead?
6, 7, and 8. Those are combine, right?
Yeah.
However, at the same time, I think it allowed me a level of access to the scenes and the characters that I wouldn't have otherwise had. I think had I been just the director, there would have been a tendency to focus extensively on camera as opposed to the needs of the actors and the scene itself. It is a character-driven story. It's a dialogue-driven script, and that's really where the attention needed to be. There were a number of times where I would go into rehearsal thinking that I already had the scene blocked out and shot in my head, and just by virtue of working with the other actors and making myself close to the scene, I realized that the best thing that I could do as a director would be to stay out of the way. Just to put a Kino bulb on the camera, a camera on the cam op's shoulders, and put them in a position to capture the performances and the authenticity of the story.
Why did you stay with me?
I stayed with you because I was so humiliated that I was convinced no one would ever have me like I was.
Road to Victory is really a story of bad love. And when I say bad love, I don't mean that it's the type of love or the type of relationship that two people shouldn't share. But it's certainly not the Hollywood version of love where two people fall for each other and have this romantic infatuation and ride off into the sunset together. There's a certain trust that develops between two people when they allow each other to see each other at their most vulnerable. I think what these two characters realize is that they've been inextricably joined by circumstance. That without these circumstances, they would never have opened up to someone else the way they have. I think they realize just how profound that is to be able to share that with someone, and what a loss it would be if they allowed their own pain to keep them apart. When people come out of the theater after watching Road to Victory, I really want them to take a moment to think about three things. The first would be the importance of their health and just how much their health affects their lives. The second, I want people to pause for a moment and reflect on just how much their families mean to them. And the third, and perhaps the most important, I want people to think about how the difficult decisions we make affect not just us, but those close to us.